say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was beautiful. Thank you, Grace. I now like to call up Father John Ginty from Holy Family Church in Nutley to do the opening blessing.
Brothers and sisters, let us enter into the presence of God and ask Him to bless this gathering, this assembly, and all of us who are participating in it today. We stand before you, Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of Father and Son. Lord, you desire justice for all. Enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful in all that is true. As we gather in your name, may we temper justice with love so that all our decisions may be pleasing to you and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. You live and reign with the Father and the Son, one God forever and ever. Amen.
My glasses just broke, can you believe it? Can't believe all the things that went wrong this week. Our website was down, our voter voice, the technical problems, it was just unbelievable. But we're here, that's the important thing, right? So good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming. This year we're going to do something a little different. For the first time ever, we're going to have a peaceful march immediately following this rally. And Reverend Clenard Childress will be leading the march, and you'll be hearing more from him shortly about it. So today we gather peacefully to celebrate life and reaffirm our goal to save the lives of the smallest, most vulnerable members of the human family, the helpless babies in the womb. We remember the 62 million babies who have lost their lives to abortion since Roe v. Wade was decided 48 years ago today. We are here to say their lives matter, and to speak the truth that women deserve better than abortion. At the same time, we recognize the damage abortion has caused to our families and our nation. For this reason, we offer comfort and support to the countless women and men who regret their abortions and have vowed to no longer remain silent about the devastation caused by abortion. I know you've all heard about the New Jersey Reproductive Freedom Act. It's horrible. It should be called the Freedom to Kill Act because that is precisely what it does. It provides a license to kill babies before and even after they are born. To say this is one of the most extreme abortion bills ever introduced would be an understatement of the bill's implications. How often have we heard pro-abortion groups say, "We won't go back"? Yet isn't it ironic that they are the very ones dragging us back a half a century with their same lies, excuses, and slogans? And isn't it interesting that we hear elected officials claim that they support science, but then conveniently turn a blind eye and deaf ear to the advances in science and medicine that prove that a baby in the womb is a wholly separate living human being, one that can feel pain? Once upon a time, the abortion propaganda machine said that abortion must be legal to ensure that only physicians perform them in a licensed hospital so that women's health and fertility are protected. How many times have we heard that? But now, it is the same abortion propaganda proponents who want to bring women back to the back alley by allowing non-physicians to perform invasive abortion procedures, even in the late term, in an office setting. These outdated arguments were on full display in the video where Governor Murphy and his wife held a press conference with Planned Parenthood and pro-abortion legislators announcing the introduction of this bill. The Freedom to Kill Act is so radical that it even removes prosecution for a pregnant woman who either intentionally or unintentionally causes the death of her newborn baby. Can you believe that? It will force us to pay for abortions up to birth for New Jersey residents and even those who come to our state. That's the language in the bill. It will eradicate the conscience clause for healthcare professionals who object to performing abortions. That conscience clause has been in place since 1974, and they want to eradicate it. Under this act, New Jersey will become a safe harbor for sex traffickers and those who prey on teenage girls to bring them to New Jersey for forced abortions and sterilizations, all paid for by New Jersey taxpayers with no questions asked. It will cause even more disparities among poor and minority populations since we know that African American populations disproportionately and sadly have more abortions. The people of New Jersey must rise up and let legislators know that we oppose this horrific legislation and demand that they withdraw it from consideration. We will have an opportunity to do that this November when the entire legislature and governor are up for re-election. I want to thank all of our pro-life coalition partners who are working together to fight the New Jersey Freedom to Kill Act. You will hear from many of them today. And thank you to our pro-life legislators for their courage to stand with us on the most important human rights issue of our day. And I want to thank all of you in the pro-life movement who selflessly do their part to save babies from abortion day after day and year after year. Your commitment and determination are truly commendable. You have inspired so many others to get involved. And I want to give a special shout out to all the folks in the crisis pregnancy centers and maternity homes who do extraordinary work that has helped save the lives of so many women and babies. Keep up the good work. In closing, I just want to say, despite the fact that we are facing unprecedented challenges at the state level and now on the federal level, and I'm sure you know what I mean by that, my message for you is do not be discouraged. No. Instead, let us be fortified through our prayers and united in our efforts to continue to work toward the day when each child is protected in law and welcomed in life, no matter what obstacles are placed in our way and regardless of how long it takes, because the lives of precious babies and their mothers depend on us to do so. Thank you so very much, and God bless you. And now it's my pleasure to call up one of our very pro-life senators, Senator Mike Doherty from the 23rd Legislative District.
Okay. That's really good. I just walked out about 20 seconds ago, and then I got called up here to speak. You know, often you show up for events and you got to wait forever. So good job, Marie. Very efficient operation. So, wow, this is a wonderful crowd, and thank you for coming out to protect unborn life and to stand up for the pro-life cause. It's really encouraging to see all you folks out here today, and you're really doing the Lord's work. This is no more important issue. You know, I'm very fortunate to have constituents in my district. The 23rd district covers parts of Hunterdon County and Warren County and Somerset County, and our entire legislative delegation in the 23rd legislative district, John DeMayo, who I think is going to be here, Assemblyman John DeMayo, and Assemblyman Eric Peterson, we're really proud to be pro-life. And you know, it's terrible that we live in the days that we do right now. It can be very discouraging because lies are presented as truth, and speaking the truth these days gets you labeled as some type of extremist. But God's truth never changes. He's the Alpha and the Omega. And His word is the truth, and God's very clear. He wants us to be here to protect innocent life, and to protect life from the moment of conception. And it's really clear, and we need to pray for a lot of people as you're here today and as you go about your business in the future. You know, it's terrible that there is people who want to run for office. There's actually a party, an organization out there. You have to be pro-abortion to run for office. And if you're not, you just can't run. It's terrible that those choices have to be made. And I think that we need to be here as a loud voice. I think the way to turn this around the best is to have from the pulpit the folks in the Catholic Church and the other Christian churches. They need to, the people, the leaders, the pastors, the priests, they need to be forceful. You know, you can't seek to please man, you need to seek to please God. And they're the ones that need to speak out louder, to allow elected officials to be clearly, openly pro-abortion, and they attend some of these churches, and folks are compromising and allowing this to go on. This cannot be allowed to stand, and I'll just give you one brief example. We had someone in the legislature clearly, openly pro-abortion, proud to do it, and they were actually a Eucharistic minister at their local Catholic church. And you know what? The church let it go on for a while, but then something good happened. They removed that person from serving as a Eucharistic minister. And we need to encourage the Catholic Church and other churches to speak out forcefully and do the same thing. Because when you look the other way, when you say it's okay, it's not okay. And they need to know every day that they're being shunned for having their pro-abortion views. And I think that would really help turn things around. You know, all this is going to be gone. This state capitol is going to be gone someday. It's not going to exist. And you're here for the spiritual. Everything you see in the physical world is going to be gone. But you're here for winning souls. You're here for the spiritual. You're here because you have your faith. And there's no more important issue than standing up for the unborn. So I want to thank you all for doing that. This location has had a lot of great rallies over the years. I remember back in 2011, Ron Paul was here. I don't know if anybody remembers Ron Paul. Maybe somebody was here. Ron Paul was running for president. And you know what? Ron Paul is proudly pro-life. And now his son, Rand Paul, serves in the U.S. Senate. He's proudly pro-life. We had a great rally here. It was very much like this. It was packed. And my wife Linda was here, and the great thing was that Ron Paul made a commercial and he put it on TV, and then my wife Linda was on TV in the Ron Paul for President commercial, saying, "Hey Linda, you're famous, look, you're on TV." But in any event, what we learned that day is these corridors, they're a great echo chamber, and there's a lot of folks looking, saying, "Hey, what's going on outside?" So I thought we would, as I wrap things up here, Marie, I thought we would let them know who we are, because they're probably wondering who they are. So I was thinking that perhaps we would do something like this. I would say, "We are," and then the crowd would say, "Pro-life," right? So let's see, because we want them all to know and rattle the windows a little bit. I think it would be really exciting. So we'll try it 3 times and see how it works out. Okay, everybody ready? Just pretend you got your Sunday best on and you're singing in the service, and you want the Lord to hear this as well. So here we go. We are. We are. We are. That's great. Thank you, and may God bless all your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to call up now Melissa Diaz from Gigi's Playhouse in Somerset County. Did everybody hear me? Melissa Diaz from Gigi's Playhouse in Somerset County.
My name is Melissa, and I am the mother to a little boy named Noah. He is 4 years old and lucky enough to have 3 copies of his 21st chromosome, or something that's referred to as Down syndrome. I'm here today to share my story. When a woman is pregnant, they undergo a series of tests to screen for genetic abnormalities. When I was 18 weeks pregnant with my son, I had one of these tests. After the test, the doctor came in and said she had some news. My ultrasound had revealed several features on my baby that were consistent with a diagnosis of Down syndrome. After an hour, I found myself sitting in the office of a genetic counselor, learning about what this diagnosis meant. I was told of all the things my child would not achieve, and that he would never exceed the IQ of an 8-year-old. I was warned about all of the medical issues he could have. I was told that this child would be a burden and that he would strain not only my finances, but also my marriage. The picture that was painted for my son's future was one of negativity and fear. But this was a future that the genetic counselor said I did not have to experience. In so many words, it felt like they were expecting I would terminate my pregnancy. In the moments after this meeting, I kept replaying the words I had just received over and over again in my mind. What did all of this mean? Would my son live a normal life? Would he be able to do all of the things that his older sister could do? Am I prepared to be the mom of a child with special needs? My thoughts were spiraling into a worried and frightful frenzy. Granted, the news I received was unexpected, I still believed that this child was a gift that was created perfectly. I would never consider terminating my pregnancy. I vowed to love this child with every fiber of my being and care for him in the best way that I could. And if he did have Down syndrome, I thought to myself, I'm gonna rock this. As I informed my doctors that I would never consider terminating my pregnancy, I got pressure. And it wasn't just once, but every time I went to my appointments. I felt like my desire to continue my pregnancy was not being respected. With each appointment, the hope I had for this unborn child was being stolen from me, and in its place, I was given fear of the unknown and the grief of the loss of a family that I dreamed of having. What was supposed to be one of the most joyous times in my life ended up being one of the most depressing. A few months later, my son was born. The moment I had longed for was finally here. And I'll never forget when I got my first glimpse of him. I was completely and utterly obsessed. He was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. He was absolute perfection, and it was love at first sight. 2 weeks later, I received a call from our genetic counselor confirming that Noah did in fact have Down syndrome. At the sound of those words, I wept. I wept for days, for weeks, for months. All of the negativity that was given to me during my pregnancy was running through my mind constantly. I needed to find inspiration. It was at this point that I connected with a Down Syndrome Achievement Center in Hillsborough called Gigi's Playhouse. Through meeting other families that shared our journey, I saw the reality of this diagnosis, which led to hope finally rising up within me. Over the last 4 years, Noah has shown us there isn't anything that he cannot do. He continues to prove that with a lot of practice and determination, patience and hard work, he can do anything. I have realized that Noah is not any different than my daughter, who is typical. He is achieving all of the same milestones that she achieved. He's just doing it at a different pace. But more than meeting developmental milestones, Noah has this amazing gift of touching the lives of the people that he encounters. He is the epitome of joy, and he exudes so much of it as he experiences life. Whether it be swinging on the swing set, waving at every single person that he meets, or chasing after his cousins, he soaks up every experience, and he loves life. Every day, I look at my son and I think that there are people in this world that did not want him to exist. I remember the pressures I felt to terminate my pregnancy. To think that others would have robbed him of his precious life, it makes me sick. I came here today to share my personal story with all of you in hopes to create more awareness of Down syndrome and the pressures that surround this type of prenatal diagnosis. My dream for my son would be that people would not judge him by the diagnosis he wears on his face, but instead that they would see him for the beautiful and perfect individual that he is. The delivery of Noah's diagnosis was surrounded by negativity, fear, and tremendous pressure to terminate his life. All because there's an inherent bias that babies like Noah would not live a normal life according to society's standards. Unfortunately, what I experienced is common for women that receive a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome. In fact, the termination rate for a pregnancy that has this prenatal diagnosis is 67% in the United States. And that termination rate is even higher in other countries. But it doesn't have to be like this, and we can make a difference to change these statistics. Women who receive this diagnosis, they should receive accurate, up-to-date information about Down syndrome from their healthcare providers. People with Down syndrome, they need to be accepted as part of society, and we can advocate to change legislation to protect these unborn babies and prevent the discrimination that their families face. There are 5 states in the US that have already passed legislation to make this change, and several other states are moving in that direction too. There are actions taking place in this country to stop this type of discrimination, and it is not happening in New Jersey. My son was discriminated against before he was even born. Let's change that. Let's call on our legislators to prevent the discrimination associated with a prenatal diagnosis. A life's value should not be defined by the results of a genetic test. I would like to challenge this question to all those people who discriminated against my son and who discriminate against an unborn baby with a prenatal diagnosis. What makes a life meaningful? My child's life and every child's life are worth living. No child should have their right to life stolen from them.
Thank you, Melissa. And I just want to say, Noah's really so lucky to have you as his mom. Thank you so much. It was beautiful. Thank you. Now I'd like to call up Assemblyman John DeMeo, who is an Assemblyman from the 23rd Legislative District.
Thank you, Marie. Good to see you again, and we all owe Marie a great debt of gratitude for the work that she does in New Jersey for the pro-life movement. She's a tremendous steward of our mission. I think Senator Doherty, he's my senator, by the way, so I hear him give a lot of impassioned speeches, and he snuck away on me. I was going to give him credit because he's one of the most passionate people on this issue. In fact, that's his #1 issue for being in office, and he exudes that whole excitement about the movement. And when he talked about some politicians and some folks that for some godforsaken reason, that's where we get our strength from and power from to carry out our job. That's where we look to. 2 days ago, we had a change of presidents. We now have our second Catholic president who intends to overturn a lot of what President Trump did for the pro-life movement in the United States of America. There are over 20 executive orders that are issued already, and I have a feeling some of the people who voted the way they did last year may have buyer's remorse sometime by next week. It's unbelievable that we lost such a great president. Sometimes his style was what it was, but his substance was spot on issues for our cause, but also for what was right for the American people and the country. And we owe him a great debt of gratitude as well. I have a feeling in a couple of years we'll get control of the House. Usually this is a very cold day, and I've often commented that this issue for people who support abortion is a very cold-hearted thing. Today it's warmer, so we're outnumbering them with the warm hearts in the crowd today, and God is giving us great weather to celebrate this event today. I look at my daughters who are now grown up and wonder what the world would be without them. And 20 months ago, we were blessed with a grandson. And Dad's a cop, Mom works, so at least 2 days a week he comes to the house. And I have guilt because I have more time now to hang around with him at 8 o'clock in the morning than I did when my kids were growing up. But we spend a lot of special moments. And I'll tell you what, when I see him and the smiles he gives me and the time we spend together are so precious. And when you think that tens of millions of babies were destroyed in this country, it's a heinous attack on mankind. Everything we stand for as people. You know, we're going through a time now with this dreaded illness, and everyone's fighting to protect themselves for life, so that we could go on as a world and a society and do great things to help each other. So just know that you have my support as long as I'm in this building and after, to do whatever I can to promote this cause. We've voted against every single non-pro-life issue since I've been here, and certainly Senator Doherty and Assemblyman Peterson, who will be here later, that represent the 23rd Legislative District. And you have ardent supporters in us. And God bless all of you for coming out here today and supporting this very important mission for all of us.
Thank you, Assemblyman John DeMeo. Now I'd like to call up the President of New Jersey Right to Life, Roberta Reiniak.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for coming out today. Alive. Every day we're alive is a beautiful day. It's an amazing word, alive. This is what we want for babies who are alive in the womb. We want them to be born alive and not destroyed by abortion. Once again, we're revisiting a most terrible anniversary in our country, that of the decision of Roe versus Wade. Since its inception, over 61 million babies have died in America alone. Our goal is to educate more people about abortion and the effects that it has on the life of the unborn and their mothers. Now, many people in this fight are losing heart. They're not speaking out. And they only see the evil of abortion. They're becoming discouraged by leaders and politicians who do not follow through on their promises to protect the unborn. We need to hold them accountable. We need to do it with our votes, with our letters, our phone calls. We can't be silent anymore. We need to be a voice for the weakest and most vulnerable among us. Now, as warriors for life, God has placed us in this position, and we in New Jersey Right to Life have an awesome responsibility in leading the fight against the pro-abortion movement in our state. So in New Jersey, we're continuing the fight for life against the culture of death, and we're fighting legislatively for the right to life from conception to natural death. And with your continued prayers and support, New Jersey Right to Life will become stronger in the fight against abortion. Now, on a personal note, in our family, we had one birth in the last several months, and we have 2 more coming up this year, so we're growing the pro-life movement from the inside. So thank you to all of you for your dedication, hard work, and courageous spirit on behalf of the unborn. My hope and prayer is that God will continue to go with us into the unforeseen future. Thank you. Okay, and our next speaker will be Rabbi Nosen Leader, the Executive Director of Help Rescue Our Children.
Thank you very much for the honor to address this assembly, which apparently includes some of the most prominent pro-life activists in the state of New Jersey at this broad-based, non-interfaith event. I'm honored to speak here. Maimonides, in his Yad HaChazaka, his legal work in Laws of Kings, chapter 9, categorizes abortion as a capital crime under Noahide law, which applies to all mankind. Abortion, as bad as it is per se, is getting worse. There's a trend of escalation. What used to be something that was urged to be safe, so quote unquote, and rare, is now something that is being celebrated and expanded up till birth and even afterwards. We're getting to the point where even infanticide is okay. Increasingly, older children are going to be targeted. Children's lives cannot be predicated on the convenience or the whims of parents, and that's exactly what's happening. We need to thank those who take a stand for our most innocent. We need to thank those who insist on calling killing, killing. We need to thank those on calling things what they are. We need to thank those that call black genocide, black genocide. By doing so, you strengthen our hands in calling out Jewish abortion genocide policies. While in America, well over 800,000 Jewish babies have been killed by abortionists over the past 48 years. Approximately 2 million Jewish babies have been killed in Israel under the tragic influence of anti-religious enablers there. By saying the truth, you will prevail under whichever administration it is. Thank you for not succumbing to some of the errors of other movements that have failed to state their case clearly, unapologetically, unequivocally, and unrelentingly. The main thrust of our effectiveness can be manifested at this level, on the state level. Remember, Roe v. Wade was preceded by New York legalizing abortion several years before. That bill passed New York the New York legislature by one single vote. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about working on the state level, and that's something we can do. We can leverage the popular angst for this upcoming election to try to see what we can do to change the direction of this country. And never ever forget that you will never lose by stating the truth. There's something else I'd like to mention about the particular legislation that we're talking about, S3030. And I'd like to read something from it. It says, every individual present in the state, including but not limited to an individual who is under state control or supervision, shall have the fundamental right to choose or refuse contraception or sterilization, and choose whether to carry a pregnancy, to give birth, or to have an abortion. Essentially, this is allowing anyone to visit the state and quote unquote enjoy the free rights that quote unquote that they're given here. This is an invitation to human traffickers. And that's something that in our work in the course of the work we do with Help Rescue Our Children, we're somewhat familiar with the very assumption that the pro-abortion movement is predicated on choice is so clearly refuted by the fact that they are now providing an open invitation to traffickers who, if anything, deny choice to their victims. And we should bear in mind what Rabbi Meshulam David Soloveitchik writes, one of the leading Torah sages, writes about the wickedness in the eyes of God of persecuting even one woman, one young girl, and these traffickers do that routinely, and others can address that due to lack of time, of course. We must bear in mind that God will judge those that persecute not only the unborn, not only the babies after they're born, He will judge those who persecute those victims of child trafficking that will be put at grave disadvantage due to this legislation. In fact, Rabbi Soloveitchik cites a Talmudic source that the great empire of Egypt came to its knees because of the persecution of one Jewish woman. If that's what happened to Egypt, imagine what will happen to America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi Leiter. I have an announcement. There's 2 cars parked down the street in front of the governor's office in a no parking zone, and it says no parking. One is a green Toyota, a New Jersey license plate V as in Victor, W as in William, S as in Sam 33T. And the other one is a silver Toyota with Pennsylvania license plate 00005. C like Charles, L like Larry. They're going to tow you, so if these cars belong to you, you might want to move them as soon as possible, okay? Now it's my pleasure to call up Megan McCullen, who is with Democrats for Life of America, and she's a student at Rutgers Law. Please welcome Megan. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today. Like Marie said, my name is Megan McMullen. I'm a second-year law student at Rutgers Law School, and I'm here on behalf of Democrats for Life of America. As it's the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I wanted to speak to you about not only the horrors of abortion, but also the horrors of S3030. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay, sorry. So, I wanted to talk about something a little ironic. When I started law school, I learned fast that I had to stay quiet about abortion. I had posted a couple pro-life advocacy things on my Facebook page, and I got a lot of backlash from classmates. And I was really upset about it because I had this desire to advocate for the unborn, and at the same time I didn't want any backlash, and I was honestly worried about getting in trouble with my school. So I asked my friend, what should I do? I have all this guilt about not advocating for life, but also concern about my future career as a lawyer. And he said, do you want a career in pro-life? advocacy, and I was like, no, I want to be a lawyer. But now here I am today, and I do want a career in pro-life advocacy. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate to my journey, or at least some of you can. I was against abortion and advocated against abortion, but at the same time I fell victim to the idea that we shouldn't make it illegal, that we shouldn't tell women what to do, that it's not my business. As a Christian, I was often told by people that abortion is between a woman and God, and as a feminist with a political science degree, I was told I couldn't be pro-woman and pro-life at the same time, which is a lie. I felt bad for the babies, and I knew that their hearts started beating around 7 weeks. I knew that they felt pain during abortion, and I even knew that some of them had been viable at the time of abortion had they been delivered. I didn't want to call abortion what it is, though. I didn't want to offend people or hurt people, and I especially didn't want to be hated. But today I'm going to call it what it is. It's murder. I was selfish, and I didn't see that my choices had ramifications, but I started to feel a little empty, knowing that I could be advocating for these lives and I wasn't. But I changed the way that I spoke about abortion based on my audience. If I knew somebody was pro-life, I was pro-life. If I knew somebody was pro-choice, then it's okay, I could be a little bit pro-choice. Not anymore. I'm diving headfirst into the pro-life movement. I want to advocate against abortion, but I want to specifically talk about S3030 today, or the Kill at Will bill. We call it the Kill at Will bill because you can have an abortion at any time, at anywhere, by any physician or abortionist or doctor, and at any time in the pregnancy, right up to moments before birth. It's a direct attack on women's rights. It's a danger to women. And as a Democrat for life, women's rights are really important to me. We've been lied to by educators, politicians, and physicians. Abortion is not a woman's right, it's a human rights abuse. It's one of the top aids in human trafficking. My colleague Myra worked at Planned Parenthood for 17 years, and she told me a story about what happened right after she blew the whistle on them. She saw that the same man had been bringing in multiple young girls into Planned Parenthood over a period of weeks to get abortions. She brought it to her supervisor that the same man was bringing in all these young girls, and she was told to mind her own business. It's not a surprise that Planned Parenthood would say something like this because they thrive in abortion. They don't want to end human trafficking, but we do. S3030 said it allows unmarried pregnant minors to get any care related to pregnancy without their parents' consent. That includes abortion. This, coupled with don't ask, don't tell policies, means that there's no protection for women. The doctor can't ask about why they're getting an abortion, who brought them in, and they can't call their parents, even if they're a minor. This gives free rein to traffickers to keep bringing in the same girls, for the same girls to get pregnant over and over and not be saved. They can't be reunited with their families. This legislation has nothing to do with protecting women. It's pandering to Planned Parenthood while pretending to care about women's rights. It will also require private insurances to pay for abortions. It ends all regulations in a state that already has basically no regulations for abortion anyway. And one of the main legislators of this bill, Loretta Weinberg, is funded by Planned Parenthood. The bill also states that the fetus shall have no independent rights under the laws of New Jersey. We're unlikely to make a comeback from this. If this bill is passed, we're not going to come back from it. Here and now is the time that we can stop this bill from being passed and protect the babies' lives. We need to start writing letters to our legislators and to our senators. If they don't answer your letters, call them, call their offices, tweet at them, write letters to the editors in your local newspapers, anything to get the word out about this bill. People haven't read this bill in their entirety and are going to vote yes on it. They don't know what it says, so I encourage you to read the bill, and then I encourage you to encourage others to read the bill. All it is human rights abuse after human rights abuse disguised as women's rights. It calls abortion essential. It calls the murdering of human babies essential. It will never allow any new legislation regarding abortion to be passed in New Jersey. That means it's unlikely that if this is ever passed, that we'll ever be able to make abortion illegal. We can't trust people funded by Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, who's been proven to aid in human trafficking, to care about women's safety and rights. How many more babies need to be killed before we do something? I'll close with this. I've always felt politically homeless. I took the political compass test and I'm left of center, but I'm wholeheartedly pro-life and wholeheartedly want to abolish abortion. If you've ever felt politically homeless, if you've ever felt that your views don't totally line up with the party that champions human rights, that champions pro-life views, that's okay. Visit DemsForLife at newjersey.org if you want to know more about our organization. But if you don't, that's okay. I'll leave you with this. We all need to come together and save the baby humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Now I'd like to call up Steve Richardson, who is the Culture of Life Programs Director for the New Jersey Knights of Columbus.
That's all right. Thank you, Marie. Okay. I was told to get close to the mic, so. There's a common saying that is often attributed to the Chinese. May you live in interesting times. Although some may think it's a blessing, it's actually a curse. And with all that has happened in the last few years, I have to say, boy howdy, are we living in interesting times. We live in times where if you believe that marriage is between one man and one woman, you're a homophobe. Where our leaders seek to declare that the unborn have no rights, let alone equal rights, under the law. Where when we meet someone new, we're expected to ask, what are your pronouns? Because the person may not identify as male, female, or either one. Where prayers by our leaders end with amen and a women. And where abortion is a woman's health care choice and not the murder of her unborn child. We live in times where constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property can be taken away with due process, while the so-called right to abortion cannot. Any law duly and properly enacted by the states that in any way limit abortion is immediately challenged as unconstitutional. We live in times where the minority dictates to the majority. According to a Gallup poll conducted from May 1 to May 13 of last year, only 29% answered that they thought abortion should be legal under all circumstances, whereas 50% thought it should be legal under certain circumstances and 20% thought it should be not legal at all. In addition, in June of 2019, their poll showed that 58% opposed abortion after the detection of a fetal heartbeat, which is around the 6th week of pregnancy. Our lawmakers here in New Jersey now want to pass into law their Reproductive Freedom Act, a bill that clearly states a fertilized egg, embryo, or fetus shall not have independent rights under the laws of this state. They want unlimited abortion on demand, despite the fact that 70% of the people oppose it. We, the Knights of Columbus as a whole and here in New Jersey, are dedicated to returning us to uninteresting times. We are fighting hard to bring us back to times where you know what pronoun to use by looking at a person or their birth certificate, where the will of the majority is not ignored in order to service the minority, where abortion is not a choice made to avoid the consequences of a prior choice, where women are able to make an informed choice for themselves without the pressure from her partner or her family, and with the support of a pro-life pregnancy care center and pro-life organizations. That is why, as Knights of Columbus, in the decades that have followed Roe v. Wade, we have been dedicated to supporting all pregnancy care centers in New Jersey that support life, with donations of hundreds of thousands of dollars, diapers and wipes, and the placement and replacement of over 24 ultrasound machines. Women need to know that there's a real choice other than abortion. We must also be there for the child after it's born. That is why in those decades we have donated millions of dollars to organizations that care for the mentally and physically disabled, and hundreds of thousands of dollars to Special Olympics, because everyone is entitled to a chance at life and a high quality of life. Melissa, you and all the parents like you, we've got your back. Amen. How many women who choose not to have an abortion if they knew that that this kind of support was available and were not told constantly by everyone around them that the abortion is the only way? But here in New Jersey, too many of our leaders would rather expend public funds to Planned Parenthood to kill the child rather than care for it. Why? Quite frankly, it's simpler and it's cheaper. But we cannot allow this to stand. We must call our leaders to account and hold them accountable. They must care for our children, not kill them. From the Knights of Columbus in New Jersey, I say to all of you here today, may you live in uninteresting times. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Now I'd like to call up Teresa Martinez. She's with Advocates for Hispanics for Life.
Good morning, my pro-life family. Today I represent men and women that attended my post-abortion healing retreat ministry, Rama de Maria. This is where they clearly send a message to Governor Murphy, PP, and all the pro-choicers. We refuse to accept, we will not accept that all you could offer us is the killing of our babies in the name of affordable acts. That should make us free of what we ask, free of not giving birth to our children, but to keep us in silence of protecting this horrible act, this criminal act, this heinous act of us being the killers of our children. No more will you make us slaves of the painful life that we live while you sleep at night, Mr. Murphy. We will not stop until abortion is abolished. You can keep your Reproductive Freedom Act to yourself. This is another way you show us the ultimate choice that you give us, the Hispanic community and the minority community. That is the choice that you're trying to give us, and we will not accept it. Your goal is to eliminate our future generation. That will not be happening, Mr. Murphy. You will not keep us silent anymore. We will teach our children and our new generations that you pro-choicers are the true killers of their siblings. All by blood money. No longer silence minority Hispanic. Pro vida, pro familia. Los hispanos no vamos a quedarnos en silencio más. Los hispanos tenemos voces para defender nuestras familias y nuestros hijos. El gobernador tiene que oír nuestras voces. No podemos quedarnos callados. As of this moment, this very moment, the sleeping giant is no longer sleeping. Remember that. And we are a voting community. Remember that. We will not give you any more money by killing our children. Remember that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chuck Swanson from Options Pregnancy Center for Women.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome, my pro-life brothers and sisters. We're glad to be with you this morning. I am Chuck Swanson. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Options for Women. Options is a Christian pro-life pregnancy center. We have our base in Cherry Hill and have been serving women and families for over 35 years. In that time, we have served over 25,000 clients, and over 6,000 babies have been born that might not have been born if Options wasn't there to help. You know, while we're here this morning talking about some really important issues, there's a lot of work going on in Congress and here in the Senate and the Assembly. There are dozens of pregnancy resource centers in the state of New Jersey that are on the forefront of fighting abortion every single day. Pregnancy resource centers are one of the most important parts of the pro-life movement. And even though things may change in the days to come, we know that God is with us. We know that even if Roe is overturned, we know that pregnancy care centers will be continuing on the forefront of care and hope and blessing for those women who are in need. Women, no matter what happens in our politics, women will still need care and support, and they will still need help navigating their options and making a choice for life. But the real issue isn't about changing women's minds. The majority of women who are pregnant and considering abortion are really just scared, and they have despair in their hearts. It's their circumstances that scare them. Pregnancy care centers understand that, and they believe that they are here to